welcome to the deep dive.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so there's this new buzz going around, right? Where politics and tech kind of meet.
Yeah, I've been seeing that too.
It's all about these reports, rumors maybe, of a potential Trump-branded mobile phone service. And even a specific phone.
Right, the T1 phone.
Exactly. It's definitely a bold idea. Got a lot of people talking, asking, is this actually happening?
Mm-hmm.
So today, that's our deep dive. We're looking into what this Trump Mobile or this T1 phone is supposed to be based on, well, all the reports and analysis you've pulled together for us.
Yep, got a stack right here.
We're going to try and unpack the whole concept, look at why they say they're doing it, take a closer look at the claims about the phone itself.
Especially the manufacturing claims.
Oh, yeah. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
And then sort of what it all might mean for, the future of tech, business, and politics all mixed together. Okay, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
So maybe start with the basics. This whole Trump Mobile idea, what exactly is it, according to the sources?
Well, the reports describe it mostly as a conservative-friendly mobile phone network, or sometimes a Trump-branded smartphone service. The angle is pretty clear. It's meant to be a MAGA alternative to, Verizon, AT&T, the big guys.
A MAGA alternative. And how would it work? Does it mention that?
Yeah, the thinking seems to be to operate as an MVNO.
Ah, a mobile virtual network operator.
Exactly. So they wouldn't build their own towers. They'd rent space on an existing network, but sell it under the Trump brand.
Gotcha. Like Mint Mobile or Google Fi, sort of.
Pretty much. And the sources also mention things like promoting uncensored communication, maybe encrypted stuff.
Interesting.
Possibly integrating with Truth Social, his social media platform, and branding it all as this Patriot-first mobile solution. The idea is to be free from what they call woke tech censorship.
Okay, so that's the service concept, but you mentioned a specific product.
Right. So tied into that, the Trump Organization apparently just announced this T1 smartphone.
The T1. What do we know about it?
Well, the advertised details, according to the reports, are pretty specific. It's gold-colored.
Gold, okay. Oh, flashy. Yep. Expected price is $499, and it runs Android.
Android, okay. So it's not just talk about a service. There's an actual physical phone they're planning to sell.
Seems that way, yeah.
Which leads to the big question, really. Why? Why phones? Why get into this market, especially now?
Yeah.
What's the strategy here based on what you found?
Well, the sources, they sort of paint this picture of it fitting into a bigger plan.
Okay.
It looks like part of this strategy to build a whole Trump-branded digital ecosystem for his supporters. First Truth Social, now maybe phones and service.
I see. Like an Apple ecosystem, but for Magia.
Kind of, yeah. The stated goals are pretty direct, fighting back against what they see as big tech dominance and data surveillance.
Right.
Building up a dedicated subscriber base, people who are already politically aligned.
Mm-hmm. Control the comms channel. Exactly. Gaining more control over how they communicate. And, let's be honest, creating a new revenue stream, especially, heading into the 2024-2025 political cycle.
Makes sense. And I remember one quote really jumped out from the sources calling it, what was it? Not just a phone company. It's a political weapon and a brand loyalty engine.
Yeah, that quote sums it up pretty well. It frames it as much more than just selling phones. It's about politics, branding, loyalty.
Yeah, definitely positioning it beyond just a regular business launch. But, reading through everything, there's also a lot of skepticism, right?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of critics are asking, is this a serious, viable tech company, or is it just another, well, the term used is cash grab.
And the sources kind of give context for that skepticism, don't they, pointing to his history?
They do. They bring up, Trump steaks, Trump University, the vodka, the hotels, a whole range of products launched over the years.
Some worked, some definitely didn't.
Right. And the point the sources make isn't necessarily about success or failure, but more that Trump knows how to market. He's good at creating buzz.
So the question becomes, is the marketing the main product here? Or is there a real sustainable business underneath all the hype?
That seems to be the core of the skepticism, yeah.
Okay, but let's pivot to something really specific and, frankly, pretty fascinating that came up in the sources. The T1 phone itself and where it's made.
Yes, this is a key point. The Trump Organization's claim, reported in the sources, is very direct. They say the T1 phone will be built in the United States.
Built in the United States. Okay, that's a strong claim, especially given his political platform.
A very strong claim. But then the expert analysis in those same sources pushes back pretty hard.
How so?
Well, analysts, they quote names like Francisco Geronimo, Blake Persmicki, Jeff Fieldhack. They mostly suggest it's much more likely the phone was designed by and will be manufactured by a Chinese company, an ODM.
An original device manufacturer,
Yeah.
right? The companies that actually build phones for lots of different brands.
Exactly. And their reasoning, it boils down to the realities of the industry right now.
Which are?
Basically, the U.S. just doesn't have the large-scale smartphone factories ready to go. One expert even said it's completely impossible for this phone to be fully assembled or manufactured stateside in any significant way.
Completely impossible. Wow, that's blunt.
It is, and it really highlights this tension between the political claim and the global reality of making tech products.
So let's talk about that global reality, because even if, say, the final screwdriver turn happened in the U.S.
Right. Even if you did final assembly here, which is itself debatable at scale,
Yeah.
the components, the guts of the phone, they come from all over. That's what the sources emphasize.
Okay, break that down for us using the T1 specs. It's $499.
You got $499 retail. So let's look at what goes into a phone like that based on the expert analysis and the sources. That 6.8-inch AMOLED display.
Yeah.
Primarily made in South Korea, think Samsung, LG, or maybe China, like BOE, not the U.S.
Okay. What about the processor, the brains?
At that price point, it's almost certainly coming from Taiwan, either MediaTek or Qualcomm, manufactured there.
Taiwan. Got it. Camera. It's got a 50-megapixel camera advertised.
Right, the image sensor chips for that.
Yeah.
Japan's Sony dominates that market. There's some Chinese players too, but again, largely not U.S.-made sensors.
Okay, so display, processor, camera, largely offshore, anything potentially American.
Memory is interesting. Memory chips could involve U.S. tech, maybe Micron, which does manufacture here. But Samsung in South Korea is also a huge supplier. So it's possible, but not guaranteed, and it's just one part.
So even if one component might be U.S. made.
You're still relying on this vast global network for almost everything else. That's the reality of smartphone supply chains. It's incredibly complex.
And the sources contrast this $499 T1 phone with something like the high-end iPhone, right? Which starts way higher.
Yeah, they mention the iPhone 16 Pro Max starting over $1,199 just to illustrate that different price points often reflect very different manufacturing and supply chain complexities. The expert consensus is clear. Making a $499 smartphone truly built in the USA from start to finish just isn't feasible today.
It really puts that built in the USA claim under a microscope.
It certainly does.
Okay, so let's zoom out again. We've got the concept, the VAG-GA branding, the political strategy, this whole manufacturing question.
Mm-hmm.
What's the potential impact here? What could this mean for the bigger picture?
Well, connecting it all, the sources suggest that even if Trump Mobile doesn't, build its own network or become a massive carrier.
Right, because it's an MVNO.
Exactly. Even so, it could still be disruptive. How?
Right.
By setting a precedent for what the sources call ideologically branded telecom services.
Ideologically branded, like your phone plan becomes a political statement.
Potentially, yeah. The sources throw out examples like, could we see red versus blue phone plans?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe conservative wireless bundles versus liberal bundles?
Wow. That would be a big shift. Choosing your carrier based on your politics?
It would. And the assessment in the material is that Trump Mobile, whether it succeeds wildly or not, could lead the way in politicizing communication infrastructure.
For better or worse, as they
For
say.
better or worse, it opens that door.
Which really brings up a very direct question. A question for you, our listener.
Mm-hmm.
Sources basically ask it, would you switch to Trump Mobile?
It's a provocative question.
It is. And we'd encourage you to think about it, considering everything we've talked through, the branding, the politics, the manufacturing claims versus the global reality. Where do you land on that?
It touches on a lot of factors.
Definitely. So to wrap up, we've taken this deep dive into the Trump Mobile concept, the T1 phone announcement, looking at the vision, the strategy, and the expert take on the manufacturing side.
Yeah, and it really throws a spotlight on this complex mix of political branding, business strategy, and just how global tech manufacturing truly is.
So here's a final thought for you to take away today. As our phones, our communication tools, maybe become increasingly tied to our political identities.
While the technology itself relies on these incredibly complex global supply chains.
How does that whole situation influence your trust? How does it affect the choices you make about the technology you use every single day? Something to think about. Stay curious.